Begin the podcast episode by going, "Hello and welcome."
Maybe we should. Maybe we should. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Connect to Tech. This is our new channel, which, well, I say this is Richard.
Hello,
I'm to my voice there. This is Richard. I'm Harry, and this is our new channel. We're going to be doing lots of tech-based things, hence the name. A lot of different tech-based things. Basically, just whatever we want that's tech-based. Tech is
whatever we can really afford to have.
Yes, pretty much. We're both students.
What course are you?
I'm on TV and radio at Salford in my final year, so maybe not for that much longer.
Oh, fancy.
Oh,
And I'm a second-year chemistry student at the University of Huddersfield. Multi-pants science stuff.
So in more of our hobby time, we are both massive computer
massive nerds. That's sort of what it is, you know.
Yes.
I'm staring at a graphics cards right now. I'm just
The first stage is admitting it.
Oh,
the first stage is acceptance. Yeah, the first stage was to buy the pile of graphics cards that you're looking at. The second stage was to use them. The third was to test them, and then the fifth stage is acceptance.
That you're never going to see that money back ever again.
Pretty much.
And you're just going to live in debt and have lots of graphics cards that are shiny.
Yeah, well, it's like maybe they'll increase in value in time.
Nvidia releases the 2100 series. Everything else is obsolete. Oh, cock.
They've now introduced a technology which makes nothing else work. That's just something that they would do.
That's a Microsoft thing.
So I think if that was an introduction that made sense, then
we did it. Hooray!
Hooray! We did step one. No, that was step one. You see, introduction. Step two is buy the pile of graphics cards.
Okay.
So
right, well,
so yeah, we just
a bit of background on our sort of pedigree, as it were, on PCs and how we're actually slightly knowledgeable, even though
make it sound like we're not just crazy people who are making it all up.
Yeah, we're not completely mad. We promise.
Do you want to go first?
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
So, my first foray into the PC building world was with our granddad, who, when we were younger, we used to go around to his, and he had was he like 3 towers, something like that.
He had at least 2 plugged in and normally on.
Yeah, they were almost always on, and he'd edited Windows XP, so it played a Wallace and Gromit quote when you logged in.
Oh, that was so good.
No cheese, Gromit.
That's my one regret, not finding out how the fuck he did that.
I did it once, but I cannot remember how to do it. I tried to do it the other day as well. We should do a tutorial on how to do that. We work out how to do it and then do a tutorial on it. So stay around. You will find out how to do it.
Put old ancient Wallace and Gromit quotes as your startup music on Windows whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever we can figure out how to do it on. Probably not 10.
No, that's what I tried to do on. Yeah.
I think that's where we both mostly started, was with Grandad and Hammer and Red Alert 2, playing little games Red Alert 2 and.
We should do a video show of Red Alert 2, even though we can't record it with anything in Earth.
I can now.
Oh no, you did manage to, didn't you?
Relive picks it up perfectly.
Well, there you go. There will be a Red Alert 2 review video at some point.
After that, I got a dreadful AMD laptop. For Christmas.
But it was the best thing in the world at the time.
Oh,
to both of us.
Fantastic for both of us.
You're like, look, it's got dedicated graphics, and it was like, ah.
It was amazing for me because I finally got to move away from the PlayStation 2, my dear friend here, and move into the world of PC gaming. The first PC game I ever played was either Minecraft or.
I was gonna say, yeah, the fact it played Minecraft was an accomplishment.
That doesn't put me up there. It's not like StarCraft or freaking Elite Dangerous or Bioshock anything. It's
just the regular Minecraft.
Because everyone did.
Apart from me. I only got into it 2 years ago.
You were late for the party.
I was very late to the party. So yeah, the laptop that went from being the best thing that any of us had to being the worst thing that any of us have, basically.
So I had that for quite a while, and I mean, I've still got it, tired and worn as it is.
It's
I
now.
nearly burnt out the graphics chip, and the processor is not happy.
Well, you use it more as a stand now, don't you?
Well, I do actually use it quite a lot day to day, but mostly for Spotify because the speakers are not terrible,
Huh.
and I think that's about it now. So
That's
that really
its-
gets. Oh, and Dungeons and Dragons. I use it as my D&D machine just to have my character sheet on and stuff. Wow,
So-
I sound like an even bigger nerd than normal. Yes,
So-
I play D&D. Yes, it's fun.
It's gone from your main gaming machine to essentially a whiteboard, a more
Yeah.
technological whiteboard.
It's a whiteboard and whiteboard pen with an eraser, and that's basically its job now. It's like I write stuff on it very, very rarely.
Pretty much, and then sometimes a stand for the better laptops.
Yeah, so they can cool effectively. But from that, I moved on to this, which I can actually tap in my room. The nightmarishly awful Gigabyte 1155 socket motherboard, surrounded by what was initially a dual-core Pentium, because yay, which is
Because
actually not bad to be honest.
no, it pulled its weight.
The G2030, I believe it was.
Yeah, that rings a bell.
And I had 4 gigs of RAM and a GTX 650 and a ancient Egyptian hard disk drive as my boot drive, and it was like a renaissance of power and performance compared to that laptop.
Especially the 650, because if you put that machine together now, which you basically almost have, wouldn't the processor be the bottleneck?
Oh yes,
Because that 650, because it's only dual core the Pentium, isn't it? I reckon. Well, you'll have to do that. Do a test on it.
I might do. We might have to do that.
That'd be interesting. Yeah.
My local CX. We're in England, by the way.
Oh yeah, that should have been in the introduction.
From the words I exude from my mouth.
Yes.
And the word exude.
We're not American.
Oh god, that was dreadful. So good. Yeah, so I went down to my local CEX. I was just looking again, just looking, and
browsing.
Etched into the heat spreader of this processor, Intel i5 3570. And I was like, oh, that's a nice chip. That'd do great in my motherboard. Bet it's a fortune. Look down at the little sticker. It said Intel Pentium, and then a little thing below it saying £20.
Whoever mislabeled that is like got you into proper computing, basically.
Whoever mislabeled that is my like spirit animal or my god or some shit like that.
Because for the label to be different to what's written on the process, they must have been half asleep or not had their coffee yet or something.
I don't know. I don't even think they were paying attention, like even slightly attention to what the hell they were doing.
Which is funny because they normally know their stuff in there.
They're pretty good normally. I think it was just an off day, or maybe it was a chap in training or something. But anyway,
if you ever work there, you have to return the favour for someone else. Just label an 8 gig stick of DDR4 as a 4 gig stick of DDR2 for someone.
Yeah, just you pay it forward. I'd pay it forward if I ever got an actual job. Oh god,
it should be at CX.
I really should. Anyway, and so I went in, and a very nice lady there, and I was trying not to get too excited because they catch on that something was a bit wrong.
So you're like, oh, please, can I have
that Intel Pentium in the window? And she's like, okay, no worries. Point it out to me. So I went round and pointed it out. And she had a quick look at the CPU and like turned it to the light, tried to read the numbers on it, shrugged, and put it in a paper bag. No anti-static, nothing, just a paper bag.
It's like sweets from a sweet shop.
Yeah, so I paid my 20 British pounds and picked up this paper bag containing a quad-core i5 at 3.8?
3.4, I think stock is.
Oh, 3.4, sorry, 3.4, because it turbos to 3.6.
It turbos to 3.8, yeah.
Oh yeah, it's quad-core turbo and single-core turbo, the whole thing. Yeah. But anyway,
so just for perspective, that's currently on Amazon for £220 new or £63 used.
And that's what?
And that's a fair few years later. Yeah.
This was 2014, I think. So yeah, 5 years later, it's still worth more than what I paid.
It's still
for
worth
it.
at least 3 times that much.
Oh my!
If you go for the used price.
Rushed that home. And
tore apart the computer, I can imagine. Get it in.
Dismantled my computer in front of my parents, just tearing it to shreds. Dropped the new CPU in, and there we are. My first quad core, which was very exciting. I mean, when quad core meant anything, now you can buy a quad core for nothing because they're
But it
based.
makes a huge difference. Like for
Oh,
anyone out there who's running a dual core system, you need to get 4 cores as quickly as possible if you're playing any
four
games.
cores. You got to get them cores. Oh man.
Because it's just
Oh,
for any sort of multi-thread load, you're really suffering.
it's nice to have. Well, it's just nice to have some spare CPU left over. Anyway, so I had an i5 for quite a while, and then I moved to university, got my student loan in as we all do, and immediately burnt 200 British pounds of it on a GTX 960 to replace my now
Fairly
well
outdated.
still holding on there because of that overclock. I just wanted to celebrate getting to university by spending a lot of money on a graphics card I didn't like that much in the end.
But you did like it initially. I remember the initial
Initially, I
excitement.
was I was very excited for it initially.
Yeah.
I soon came to realize I didn't like the cooler at all.
Hmm.
It looks really professional and it looks very nice, but that's
It's
where the
sleek,
point
but
of
it's
that
not
cooler
crazy.
end.
Yeah.
It's like it's not a good at its job cooler. It's fine, but I don't know. Again, I've had
Every
better
time you
cards.
say something bad about it, you try and bring it back a little bit because you realize that it's sitting in my computer.
Yeah, I don't want to diss it too bad because it's the card you've got right now.
Exactly.
So I had that for quite a while. So I had an i5 and a
That's it,
960
which is a
for quite
good
a while.
combination in terms of like working with each other for performance.
You know, the level, they're both mid
Yeah.
things. You know, it's a mid tier i5 from a couple of years ago at that point,
Yeah.
and the brand shiny new 960 on the new Maxwell architecture that everyone thought was very exciting, and then they immediately ditched for Pascal, but whatever. Anyway, so I was very excited with that, and I had very, very many good years. I remember the Doom, the new Doom, Doom 2016 came out, and I was really excited to play it on my new card, and the new card wasn't you know, I could have
That is an
medium
intensive
settings,
game, to be fair.
like medium to high settings, and that was
I've still
pretty
not
good.
bought it, so I should try it on.
Oh my, it's very good. But anyway, so I had that for quite a while.
Hmm.
Then a few years later, I've moved into a house with some of my mates from uni, Al Paul's, and really got into. Well, I've been tinkering for quite a while with very low end stuff. Just buying a Dell off of eBay for nothing and just fiddling about with it, trying weird overclocks or just like modifying it in odd ways and just fiddling, not really having a purpose, just buying stuff and seeing what I could do with it.
For the hell of
Just
it. That is the hobby, really.
yeah, it was to burn time. It was the sort of thing of like, I've done all my work for uni. What am I going to do now? And then I saw an old Dell Optiplex with a AMD Phenom, an AMD Athlon CPU in it, Athlon 2 X2. And I was like, oh, I've never had an AMD other than the laptop. I wonder what it's like. So I picked that up, and then I picked up a Phenom quad core to put in it, the old Phenom 2 X4, which is a very nice chip, to be honest. If you can pick one up, they're still quite good.
And
And it
quite
was
quite good value for performance.
so it's the first foray into AMD side of things, and then a few years later, I bought a motherboard. Well, maybe it was a few months later, I think even bought a Amazon warehouse deals AMD motherboard, an AM3 Plus socket motherboard off of there because it was just like it was cheap and it would fit my Phenom in it. So I popped that in and started to use my big machine less and less as I started to tinker with the AMD build.
Hmm.
Eventually, I decided to bite the bullet and pick up a FX chip because I read about them and things. And I could pick up an 8 core for really cheap. And again, there's always the discussion of are they truly 8 cores because there's some units that aren't fully a part of the cores and things like that. So I picked one up anyway, thinking it's a laugh at best. I've got time to burn, money to burn at that point. So I thought, sod it, let's just see what this can do.
Yeah.
So I picked up the FX8320E, which is the energy efficient chip, 95 watts being energy efficient to AMD at that point in time. Oh dear. and started tinkering with that. Because they're unlocked black editions, you can go nuts on the multiplier. So I started fiddling. I started doing some proper CPU overclocking for the first time properly.
Which we're gonna do.
Really?
We're gonna do a video on overclocking that at some point.
Yes, definitely. And pushing it and seeing what I could do. And eventually I got, well, I bought off of, I think it was eBay, a boxed FX 8350, which came with bent pins. The CPU has pins rather than the motherboard because of the old AMDs. Well, the new AMDs are the same. So I bent the pins back using a credit card, or well, with my debit card. I bent all the pins back and managed to get it working, and that's what I'm using now. So my current build is a very tastily overclocked FX 8350, 16 gigs of DDR3 running at 1600, and a RX 480 I bought really cheap just before the Bitcoin mining craze started. I bought it
Yes.
for £200, and literally a week later it was worth 400. I was
I
really
remember that.
chuffed.
And
then
also-
totally failed to sell it. Whoops.
Oh, I remember you said you were going to do that. You just liked it too much.
That's the thing. I gelled with it, but then I started to use my AMD build, and that sort of became my main machine. The i5 build started to see more and more problems with the Gigabyte motherboard. Again, it was a cheap motherboard when I built it,
Yeah.
so it was starting to see its age. And again, it's never really worked right since I put the i5 in it. I don't think it's happy. I've reseated it many times, so it doesn't seem to be chuffed with that. So I'm on AMD now. Intel to AMD. So I've seen all sorts over this last few years, and speckled in between that, those big changes are all the different cards I've picked up, running from the 8800 GTS all the way through to my RX 480.
We interrupt our program to bring you this important message.
Connect to Tech, sponsored by this rattling packet of Doritos that's probably ruining your ear holes.
It's like ASMR.
Oh. Everyone is deaf.
Now back to our show.
Anyway, I think it's time you told your tall tale of tech.
That's a good
that.
alliteration name.
Should
Tall
call this
tale of tech.
the tall tale of tech section.
Yes. That's just well, we can't tell it more than once though, unless we have someone else who tells their tall tale of tech.
We might have to have some guests on. We could have my sister, who has a laptop her boyfriend gave her, and her boyfriend, who works for a PC dismantling firm.
His tall tale of tech might be slightly more long than George's tall tale of
His
tech.
tall tale of tech is, I built that computer that you know of, and I have that Netflix one, and I work with computers, and that'd be probably the length of it.
Pretty much, that's not a very tall tale. We'll have to ask. We'll have to ask him
wide
though.
tail, not a lot. That's not a tall tail.
Yes, that is the correct terminology.
Anyway, right.
Yes.
So, you, Harry,
I
guess you are 775 bound for the.
I'm very 775 bound. I was a wee boy, and I essentially started off with. Now I don't actually know what the computer spec was of the computer that I first used. I don't know if you know this, Richard, but it was then. It got taken over to my auntie Janice's on my dad's side, and because Richard's my cousin on my mum's side, which we haven't mentioned once at all. Yeah, by the way,
no, that's what connects us to humans.
Yes. Anyway, so she ended up with that. She had it for a fair few years, and now it's at the Scout Hut. And I want to actually check what it was, because I used that a tiny bit, which was the only computer that was sort of that was the first computer that was sort of I would go on most. However, before that, I would just be using my dad's work computer in his room, which me and my brother used to play Frogger on. Now, I have no idea what computer that is, because that has not survived to this day. That is a fair few PCs old. And I don't know, it's probably a Pentium 4 or something. But I just remember playing Frogger on it, and that was great, because Frogger is great. And I stand by Frogger being great. I even bought it for the PS1 a few months ago.
Oh, cracking, that's excellent.
Yeah. It lives... Well, the thing is, if you think about it, it inspires so many games today. Like, everyone was amazed by Crossy Road. It's basically Frogger.
Right,
It's basically Frogger.
Jesus,
But
that feels
Frogger's
like
better.
forever ago. That Crossy Road.
It does.
That was not forever ago. That was like 3 years ago or something like that.
Oh
4
dear.
years ago, because I was still at college. Oh god.
It's just Frogger with a worse art style.
Yeah,
Because
it's
Frogger is
but
great.
you have microtransactions.
Yeah.
Ooh, microtransaction.
So then when I got a bit older, we got that computer, that unknown computer downstairs. And then I seem to remember I was doing work on the computer one day for school. And my mum just said to my dad, because it broke, at which point in time I was too young to know how it broke, but it broke. And my mum said to my dad, like, you need to sort this out because he needs to do his work. So my dad was like, right, okay. And basically brought his computer downstairs. And, oh, sorry, no, that's, at that point I was doing my work on a dual core 775 machine. That was the machine that was downstairs at that point, running Windows Vista.
Ooh. Ooh.
Which is well renowned as the worst of the bunch. Yes. So that's what I was running at that point with a GT 7600, I think. Not that I knew this at the time. I only know this in hindsight. So then that's the one that broke or went strange. So my dad brought down his computer, which was a quad core, which is a 775 socket Q8 400. And that had a gigabyte board, like you said, Richard, which was stupidly limited to 4 gigs of DDR2. And that was my main upgrade problem, so I was stuck with that for a long time, all through Richard building his PC.
Yeah. Because I remember thinking, my computer's better now.
The only thing I had was 4 cores.
Oh, thank God, finally I got something.
Yes. But the only thing I had was the 4 cores. But then... Yeah. So I in that machine was a Asus GT 8500, which I've got on the table here, and I decided that once I started playing games on it, that I needed something a bit better. But having no knowledge of graphics cards at all I knew was that I didn't have much money / needed to get it for my birthday. Was I just picked one that said it could game, literally, like, look at the words on the website. It says it will play games, it will stay quite cool, it will not use that much power. So I got a GT 630, which was admittedly a lot newer. So I got the sort of bit more modern,
a lot better than a
8500. Yeah, it made a huge difference to me, but it made a hell of a noise.
Oh God, I borrowed it for a short while for that Phenom build that I built.
And it just
it
was like a jet engine.
Oh God, it wasn't the speed of the fan, it was the noise of the motor.
No. And also it wouldn't go below 40% speed. It was locked to 40%,
which was ridiculous.
Which these days is ridiculous.
Cooling. Yeah. Like, I remember when I borrowed it, I stuck a piece of paper in it to stop the fan blades spinning, just so I could have some peace of quiet.
It didn't even need... It could have happily run at 10%, and it ran at 40%. Anyway, so I had that, and then Richard... So I got that card, I reckon, a few months before you got the 650. Because I distinctly remember how much of a better decision that you made.
I remember you getting a 630, and I wanted a 640 because I wanted a better card than the one that you just got. And I thought, haha, I'm getting this PC, I may as well get something cool. And then I saw my 650 on Scan, I think is where I bought all my components from, because I was getting it with some money from I think Granny's will. It was.
Yeah.
Paid for my machine initially. Thank you, Granny. That was probably a very good thing.
Yes.
And I remember seeing it, and I could just stretch the budget an inch further, just really, because my dad said 400. So my initial PC build cost 420 something, and the 20 something went on that 650, which was very much worth it. Because if you look at 640s, they're OEM to begin with, so there's no ball partners. They're all NVIDIA based designs, and they're all a bit crap, to be honest.
A bit like the 630.
A bit like the 630.
A few years after, I reckon I had it for at least a couple of years, dealt with that noise, and then Richard turned round and said, hey, I've managed to pick up a GTX 460?
Yes, the 460.
Because at one point you were nearly giving me your 650, but I know that is your
Well, the thing
baby.
I knew you needed a GPU for render because of your media.
Yes, I just kind of started doing some editing and things.
So I figured, well, I've got spare graphics cards. I may as well give you one. And
Yeah.
then one day, walking through Huddersfield, I saw the glinting shine of this GTX 460. And
It does look cool. I'll have to put a picture on.
Oh, you have to put a picture because it is just fantastically pretty.
Hmm.
Not very efficient, but fantastically pretty.
Not at all efficient, but not even very powerful, but it did the job.
It's an old design. It's a 400 series, and if anyone in the any of the viewers know anything about the 400 series, is that they were flamethrowers and sucked down power like there was no tomorrow. Like
I think
myself own a 480, and anyone who's ever owned a 480 knows that you don't need central heating or a fire or even clothing when you own a 480. you just turn it on, open up Furmark or literally any benchmarking software.
Or even housing insulation. You just
Yeah, no, you just have the thing cook the room.
sit in a shed and you'll be fine.
It's like something like 90 degrees, like 90 to 100 degrees. And I did put a small overclock on that, and it topped out at 105 and then shut down due to thermal limit. I was like, overclocking this is not going to be functional.
No.
So.
Everything else still stayed the same. I was stuck, limited by that 4 gig of RAM. So I stayed with that. I stayed with the Q8400, and then you had bought your... we go way back up in the story to when Richard bought his RX 480 even, because nothing really changes for me between then, apart from the fact that I bought a laptop, which then since broke and I've now fixed, but I'll get into that another time. But nothing else really changed.
We don't seem to do super well with laptops, do we?
No. Hopefully we will now in the future.
Yeah. But
so
I picked up my RX 480.
Yeah.
8 gig, which I'm very, very chuffed about. And then suddenly had the 960 just sitting there.
Yep.
Not really sure what to do with it because at that point, I didn't particularly like it. I like the styling. It looks brilliant.
It looks very professional, like you said earlier. That's how I describe it.
Again, I wasn't very chuffed with the performance. I didn't mind selling it on. And then I think we saw that eBay listing for that overclockable SKU with the i5.
Yeah, where does that... I'm a bit confused about that now. Is it...
Because I swapped from the 3570 to the 3570K.
But you see, when you did that, I was already in possession of the board with the Pentium in. So how have I missed that out?
Oh, I gave you that Pentium board, didn't I?
Yeah, but when does that...
When did that happen? Oh, we've missed a bit. Uh-oh.
No, that can't have been then, because first you gave me the 7770.
Yes. You borrowed the 7770 to replace the 460.
But I had both.
Well, it was
oh, well, that was when I started building the new computer.
I gave you the motherboard as a birthday present?
Yes.
Or Christmas or something? With the Pentium as a loaner until you bought your own CPU.
Yes, I remember that.
Because I got the Pentium back just recently as well.
Yeah.
Well, I say just recently, like a couple of years ago, but...
Yeah.
So I gave Harry some of my spares as I was moving through my ladder of stuff. Like, I had background computers just sitting there that I've been putting together with bits and bobs from the university and from what I bought on eBay and from CEX in town. I was just building machines like there was no tomorrow. For anyone who even vaguely said they had an interest in owning a computer. Just like, here, have one.
So
which was stupid, but never mind.
Well, the main reason why I was partly that 4 gig limiter and partly just getting something in more modern hardware. So Richard gave me the 1155 socket motherboard. He gave me the better of the two boards that he had, which was his own mistake.
It was the Asus board, because I bought an Asus board to replace mine with the idea that I would get my big boy, my big i5 build, back and running by swapping the motherboard. And I just never got round to it. Again, I was
a bit of a
steel build by then. It just didn't matter. So I gave you that that motherboard with that chip in it.
Yeah.
The other Pentium I bought, the Pentium G860, I think it was, which was a slightly more powerful Pentium than the
G2030.
I think.
Yeah.
I think it's slightly higher, but it was slightly older in technology, but it didn't seem to matter.
Yeah. So
Mm.
I had that paired with the 7770, but it just wasn't quite enough power for modern titles.
No,
I remember
that was
trying to
slower.
run stuff like Dishonored 1 and stuff like that. It struggled with. So I reckon we got this right now. So that's around the time that I saw that there was a i5 3570K on eBay, which was going for a good price. Not as good as 20 quid in CEX, but
No,
still
but
good.
it was a good step in the right direction, and I didn't mind spending a bit more because the universe had produced an i5 for me at a stupid price to begin with.
Yeah, so it was
Felt
like
I
you
was
were
paying
only
my
upgrading
dues
once.
to get
Yeah.
that K.
Yeah, so I ended up with the 3570 and you ended up with the 3570K, and I swapped the 70K with you for the 960 because I paid for the
You
35.
paid
I paid roughly what you paid for the 3570
yeah,
because you
I
didn't
gave
want to
you
charge more
that
than you'd got it for. Yeah.
and the 96. So I gave you the i5 3570 and the 960 in
Yeah.
exchange for the 3570K.
And
Which
about
doesn't
30
sound
quid.
like a very good exchange,
Yeah.
but I wanted the K so I could do some proper overclocking.
Yes.
And,
Which didn't go particularly well.
didn't go well in the end.
Because of the
And
gigabyte board.
basically, I didn't care about getting rid of the
960 because you've got
60
better.
because I didn't particularly like it.
However,
And
it was a big jump for me from a 1 gig 7770 to the 4 gig 960.
Mm.
Especially for editing and rendering.
Well, you went from what 640 compute units, or no, shader cores. Sorry, shaders. That's what they call them on AMD. So 640 shaders to 1,024 CUDA cores. So there's a big jump just in core count, if anything, and those cores are not equivalent, even slightly, which is quite interesting.
That was the biggest jump yet for my hardware.
Mm.
It's fair to say. So I was like that for a fair while. That thing settled at that point for at least a few years, I would say.
Yeah, because I then moved away from.
That's when you moved away from Intel, yeah.
Onto the AMD build because I got really cross with the fact that my very cheap Intel motherboard that I bought initially
The
didn't
gigabyte one.
technically have overclocking support, but it did have a multiplier that you could change in the BIOS. It just didn't affect anything. You could change it.
It was very strange.
Yeah, you could put 50 and try and run it at 5 gigahertz or what have you. It just didn't do anything. So it didn't even have base clock overclocking, which was troubling. So I bought
that's when you moved over to AMD.
3570K for no reason. So I got kind of burnt out on Intel at that point, and I wanted a performance increase because I was starting to need it with the RX 480.
Yeah.
So I thought, well, let's see how the other side are, and here I am today with my FX 8350.
So I because I was doing more and more rendering and editing, obviously now I do at uni. I ended up with Richard's sister's boyfriend surprised us and was like, "Hey guys, I found a i7-2600 at work."
Yeah,
because that's the kind of job he has, which I would think we all wish we had. So he gave me that for free because obviously he just saw it on the side at work. So I swapped that for the 3570 so that I've got 8 threads instead of 4. And that was that's pretty much me up to speed, apart from the fact that I upgraded my motherboard so that I had partly a motherboard to make a computer for my girlfriend, which we'll go into another time, and partly because it is a better board that has USB 3 support, which doesn't sound like a big thing, but because I do a lot of editing and stuff, transfer speeds are important. And it's got 4 RAM slots is another thing I wanted, even though I only use 2 after all that. I'm running 16 gigs of DDR3 at 1600, same as Richard. But I thought I would need 4 slots to achieve that, but then I just bought bigger DIMMs because I was giving Rose the smaller DIMMs. So that didn't
Yeah,
really.
it's just one of those things, isn't it?
So that's my board, my
But
system
that's us
now.
caught up, I think.
Yeah.
So, any plans for the future for you? Any hopes for upgrade?
I think the next thing. I don't know. I was going to go for that 3770K because it's a bit more modern and I could do a little bit of overclocking, have a bit
Yeah,
of
you could
bit
get
of an
it to 4
experience
point
with that.
something quite easily, I should
Yeah.
reckon.
What was it? It's like £65 trade off that would cost me with CEX if I traded in the 2600. I'm not sure about that now because this has been running at 3.8 when I've wanted it to. On the turbo.
Yeah. Well,
So-
turbo's only for a certain number of cores, though.
Right. So that might still
Only
be an option.
1 or 2 cores running at that.
Yeah, that might still be the next thing because also it depends because I've not hit a wall yet in terms of graphics power and games, but there may potentially be something better out there for rendering, which we're going to explore in another video, aren't we?
Yes.
Optimization.
Yeah. I think for me, it would be a. Right now, I'm not really seeing the limit of my FX 8350. As much as single core performance is not brilliant, everything as we move forward is moving towards multi-core more and more and more. because
Which
the
you've
new
got plenty
CPUs
of. Yeah,
are
exactly.
multi-core. And I have very, very many cores to play with.
Yeah.
So I'm not really sure. If I were to tomorrow buy a brand new computer and just, if I had the ability, I would buy Ryzen almost definitely. I would build a Ryzen build.
Yeah.
Because there you can get entry level Ryzen that would kick the crap out of this build, to be honest.
Right, yeah.
And an R5 2700 or 2600X. Yeah, 2600 is a 6-core 12-thread, but like a proper 6-core 12-thread CPU rather than the half C Daisy whatever the hell FX cores.
Yeah.
And it would absolutely stomp the CPU.
That would be so good for rendering as well. I would have to send all my rendering to you.
Crush. Utterly crush. I mean, this crushes right now, but again, it would run cooler as well, I should reckon, because this is a 125 watt chip. Like, this is not to be trifled with.
No. Bake an
But
egg
I
on
think
it.
if I were to upgrade anything, I think it would be a new graphics card. I'm always hungry for more graphics performance.
But is that more for the experience than... Because you've not found anything that can beat up the RX...
Well, nothing I run, because I'm on a 1080p 60Hz panel, so there's nothing really right now that
it can't run at that level.
That resolution at that frame rate. So again, there's no real need for me to upgrade, which is why it's so hard to say what I would get, other than just starting from scratch just to see what building on Ryzen is like.
Yeah.
And I would definitely, I don't like the new RTX cards. I think we may talk about that a bit later on.
Or in the next podcast at this rate.
Yeah. I have a bit of a thing against them. But I think I'll probably go slightly older, actually. I think I might get a 980 Ti or a 780 Ti, something a couple generations old, so there's been the driver maturity and all that stuff. But maybe another GTX card. But yeah, I think that's us.
Yeah, so that's... I think we should... This should be the first one, because this was meant to be the first part of what we were going to talk about.
This was intro explaining who, what, where, why, and when, and what, and it was the first bullet point on this doc we had.
And it's taken an hour.
I mean, we've had a lot of computers.
It's the lesson to take away from this.
we know computers because Jesus Christ. It's like when people ask me what the biggest thing I've learned from computers is, I just say to them, I take them by the shoulders, look them dead in the eye, and just go, computers don't fucking work. That's all you need to know. They just never work. How you want them to work is how they will never work.
Always prepare for it to fail.
Prepare for everything you've ever built to just explode and die in front of you.
Just have a fire extinguisher constantly next to it.
like this machine sitting next to me doesn't have a case. It's just sitting on the motherboard box because my case is down there. I'm trying to sort that. And he's probably like 2 seconds away from bursting into flames at all times, and it's working how it was intended to function, which is terrifying,
Yeah.
utterly terrifying. Aside from the podcast for a second, did you see the name I suggested for the experiment series on the other dog?
I will check now. Oh yeah, I like that. Yeah.
Experiments.
Tech Experiments is one of the
Today on
series
Tech
you can look forward
Experiments,
to.
we will see if it will blend.
Will
Will it blender?
Will it blender? That's a.
I don't
that's a
even
good.
know if either of us really know how to use Blender. Do you know how to use Blender?
A little bit.
I have no clue.
So until the next podcast, I guess.
Yes.
Or video.
That's just our introduction, basically.
Yeah, that's us.
Welcome to Connect to Tech.
Sorry
We
it
are
was
both
so long.
massive goddamn nerds who own far too many bits of computers that don't work properly.
Yes, especially the last part.
Yeah.
Never worked
My
properly.
programs drive is a hard drive from a PlayStation 4 that I pulled out to install a bigger one. So that sort of shows what kind of half-assed, like, hand-me-down crap I'm still running on what I would call a very high-end computer.
Exactly.
Oh, Jesus. Right.
So yeah, I hope you enjoyed listening to this ramble.
Yeah.
Anyone who did, you deserve a medal.
Made it to the end, and congratulations.
You're in the
God.
top 1%.
Oh,
Please,
my
please,
hand-
please subscribe, because we're going to be doing a lot of stuff on here. Obviously, it's early days, and it's like, why would I subscribe? There's nothing there. It's like, well, just you wait.
Eventually, this world of graphics cards will fall on me and kill me, and you'll see it on the news.
And I'll make sure to get it on camera. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And then we'll blow up then. So
Yeah.
subscribe or don't, or at least subscribe when that happens.
Man dies by graphics cards. Oh no.
That shall be the clickbait title, but it'll be true.
Oh god.
So
Right.
yes, that's us. And
Goodbye from me.
yes.
Probably a goodbye from him too, I should reckon.
I would reckon that would be correct. Goodbye from me too.
Hurrah.